Betsy Devos releases final plans to protect free speech on America's campuses, owning Title IX by one reversal of Obama at a time. I'm really starting to like Betsy DeVos. I mean, man, I wish she had been this way 4 years ago. Why are we getting all this badassery when there's only like a couple months left? Anyway, I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start with promises made, promises kept, as U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos issues a final ruling on the protection of free speech rights on college campuses. Mike, roll that beautiful rock footage. Got to give the woman credit here. Got to give her credit. I still maintain she was a bad choice. I mean, this is a woman who helped cement the role of Common Core in American life. She would not have been my choice. But on Title IX issues, on issues of speech, on issues of allowing equal representation for young men accused of rape and assault, got to give her credit for it. I mean, she's done a lot. I wish, boy, the thing that bugs me so much, Katie, about this is that when you get Republicans in office, by the end of their first term, they're starting to warm up to doing things. Since when you elect liberals, boom, boom, boom. Within 3 months of the 2008-9 election, then 3 months, Arianka was transforming American education.
Well, yes, because if Republicans are nothing else, they're predictable. They want the power. You give them the power. They do nothing for it until they need to keep the power. And just right before the end, so you're like, look what everything we did. And people have attention spans about this long. So they think, oh, wow, the Republicans did so much for us, so we'll elect them again. Democrats, on the other hand, they just power, power, power. But specifically to this story, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, as you said, she kept her promise. And so she issued the Improving Free Inquiry, Transparency, and Accountability at Colleges and Universities final rule. In it, the rule states, under the Supreme Court's First Amendment jurisprudence protecting the individual's right to his own ideas and beliefs, no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or for citizens to confess by word or act their faith therein. And as a result, officials at public institutions may not abridge their students' or employees' expressions, ideas, or thoughts.
OMG, he said like a little teenage girl. OMG. I love that ruling. No official, high or petty. Is there a better definition of university administrators, chancellors, and their idiot provosts than that? Is there any better way to put it? Petty officials. You do not have the right in your pettiness to control what people say on college campuses. You don't. You do not. You should not. You ought not. It's not there. Stop doing it.
All the words from an English professor. The ruling then continues saying, academic freedom's noble premise is that the vigilant protection of free speech, unshackled from the demands and constraints of censorship, will help generate new thoughts, ideas, knowledge, and even questions and doubts about previously undisputed ideas. Although academic freedom's value deprives itself from the fact that its results are to the general benefit in the long run. And academic freedom is also inherently important in a free society. Yes, it is.
I am. Tell me what, let's see if you can do my pantomime. What two things am I doing?
Ripping.
Hint, it is one of the mottos of the University of Wisconsin system. I am sifting.
Oh, are you? Is that
and
sifting?
I am winnowing. How's that?
Oh, sifting and
to
winnowing.
To sift and to winnow goes back 100 years plus. It's one of the great milestones of Wisconsin higher education, that we need to allow ideas to be sifted and winnowed, even bad ideas. Winnow them and sift them. Now, what do you do if you're a university chancellor, or more likely his provost? What do? You squat like a little girl and we all over free speech, because this is what you know. Because in your warped, unconstitutional world, sparing people's feelings, nothing more than feelings of love. Yeah, I'm sorry. These are college-age adults. They're allowed to have sex in the dorms. They're allowed to talk about anything else on college campus, from incest to anal intercourse. But if their feelings get hurt on some politically incorrect subject, Oh, they write anonymous posts. They try to get you Title IX. They whine at the chancellor, who then turns around and whines, I've had enough of this. I'm going to do mandatory training because I keep hearing about microaggressions. How dare you ask somebody of a different color about their hair? How dare you? How dare you ask the person sitting next to you what country they come from? These things have to stop.
All right. Well, on top of that, the rule actually also addresses free speech at religious institutions. And it says that religiously affiliated institutions, in freely exercising their faith, may define their free speech policies as they choose in a manner consistent with their mission. And so no religious student organization also should be forced to choose between their religion and receiving the benefits, rights, and privileges and all that. How many stories have we heard where a Catholic group says they have to allow the LGBT person to become president of said Catholic organization because, free speech and all
we have a great story we haven't been able to get to it sitting in the queue. I'm going to have to drag it in next week, where you have a young man who was removed from his student government post because he took seriously his Catholic identity. And the other clown show kids argued that by being a devout Catholic, there's no way he could represent non-Catholic positions like choice, freedom of choice, free choice, abortion choice.
Nancy Pelosi has clearly shown that one. That
well,
she,
yeah.
I mean,
but they actually removed him.
Yeah.
That their argument was that if this kid is really that serious a Catholic, he is not for women's right to choose. Therefore, he could not serve on student government, and they removed him. They literally got rid of him. We'll have to get that story moved up in the queue.
Well, as expected, the American Atheists Organization came out and said they were outraged at what Betsy Devos did. And they aimed at defending religious liberty at colleges and universities. And they condemned what Devos and, obviously the Trump administration did. They said the regulation requires public and private colleges and universities to fund discriminatory religious groups that discriminate against the would-be members. Under this new rule, the department would especially privilege the speech and activities of religious student groups rather than applying the law neutrally.
Wait a minute. The First Amendment in the United States Constitution privileges the right of religious speech. It privileges the right of all speech, but it also especially privileges the right of religious speech. And so what that means, ACLU, and you haters out there, you atheist groups, what that means is you can't force Catholic groups on your campuses who have legitimate clubs to have gay atheists serve on the board, or else they're not being inclusive enough. That's what's happening across the country. They're dinging Catholic and Christian organizations because they refuse to have people who don't share their worldview. In the same way that the local abortion Planned Parenthood club on campus, the pro-choice campus group, doesn't have to have pro-lifers on its board. You would never ask them to. But when it comes to religious organizations, you have those litmus tests.
Well, and I like what Allison Gill, who's the vice president for legal and policy at American Atheists, said her example about discrimination on these campuses. She said, if it comes out that a student is LGBTQ, a single mother, or had an abortion, DeVos's rule would allow the group to eject the student, discriminating against that person, all while receiving funding from taxpayers and other students through the public university. Such a policy would silence dissenters and discourage students from being open about their different identities, weakening free speech on college campuses.
This is the hypocrisy. Because right now, liberal students are canceling conservative speakers on campus. They're throwing fire alarms and screaming and throwing things to stop liberal speakers from speaking. You're already doing that, and you have nothing to say about it. Your liberal, atheist, progressive constituency is already enforcing speech codes with no legal precedent to do so. You just want to make sure that Christian kids don't have a level playing field. It's remarkable, the gall of these people.
We have yet another professor who is not a stranger to being in the media for doing stupid things.
Strange, though.
Strange. Syracuse University professor Mark Rupert, good old Mark, decided to send a memo to his students warning that he does not tolerate support for President Trump. He's a poli-sci professor, so...
That's what you want in your political science professors. That's what you want.
Clearly neutral. He teaches critical issues for the United States, and he originally wrote a memo last fall that was entitled Teaching in the Time of Trump. And so this memo was originally addressed to the Chancellor's Free Speech Working Group, and now he decided, hey, let's send it to my class. Mm-hmm. So he says the memo, he first states that his most basic commitment to his students is honesty. Mm-hmm. And then he distinguishes between conservative views he will respect and those that he will not tolerate, which You put that in the same sentence.
Can I insert a little William Joel?
Go.
Honesty is such a lonely word.
Poor Billy.
Everyone is so untrue.
Good old New Yorker Billy. All right. Back to Mark, though.
Syracuse, we're in New York.
Ah, 'tis true.
Home of William Joel.
The home of William Joel. So Mark wrote, in particular, President Trump's racism, misogyny, and xenophobia are not just another political philosophy to be seriously considered and debated, but hateful ideas that we must be honest about.
And if you asked this professor to document Donald Trump's racism, it would come down to he actually once said that there were good fellas on both sides of that Charlottesville thing, when it never happened. When even liberals have documented that it never happened. Notice the assumptions here. I like this because these professors always overshoot the mark. I have a contract with my kids, I keep bringing it up, and that contract does not assert my right to eliminate progressive ideas. If you look at my contract very carefully, I guarantee the right of progressives to speak their mind. I guarantee the right of everybody, however out there their perspectives are, to have a voice. I just make sure that progressive voices can't drown out non-progressive ones. And for that, I get my fair share of hate speech. These professors, it shows you the bias in the university. If I or any other conservative professor actually tried to do what they're doing, it would be snuffed out from the get-go. It would never even been considered. But these radical lefties, they can actually get this stuff through certain committees. They can put this out there. They can tell their kids this. And unless somebody complains, nobody says a word. That shows you how the imbalance is. I know that to protect conservative speech, I have to double down on the protection of liberal speech. They, on the other hand, live in such monolithic and progressive environments, they really do think that they can lecture you that you're not going to be tolerated in their classrooms. And whenever it gets to the court or a smart university court, the smart ones, though they're out there somewhere, it's never allowed to stand.
Well, I just like that Mark also claimed in his little memo that he is fair to all serious intellectual viewpoints.
Serious. Right. I'm for conservative perspectives, just not all them racist ones. How do you make the distinguish, Mark?
Well, Mark also listed the general beliefs in individual rights and traditional values as intellectually respectable positions and historically significant in the foundation of the contemporary conservative movement. But this is not the same as assuming that the contemporary Republican Party is acting in good faith in its political practices.
It is traditional republicanism to want to protect your borders. You just got through saying that anybody who doesn't agree with you is a xenophobe, right? You're hiding under cover of what you think Republicans were back when Doris Day was top of the charts. It's just cover, smoke, and mirrors, because you've decided that good faith and intellectual conservatism has nothing to do with what Donald Trump is.
And then he actually name-checked Dinesh D'Souza, who's a conservative commentator, and you've probably
For
seen
instance,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
We will not tolerate the Dinesh D'Souza perspective.
They're saying he's one of those conservatives who distorts history, and he regrets recommending way back in 2016 when Dinesh came to the campus, regrets saying students should go see him. So Dinesh got word of this, and he responded by saying that he suspects there were students who attended his talk and came back to Rupert then and had a few questions about what they had heard Dinesh say and what maybe Mark had said. And he suggests it's probably made Rupert's life miserable and that it's the reason he refuses to expose those ideas to his students. And then Dinesh is quoted as saying, he refers to my talk as duplicitous, but does not say one word about why. Presumably, if he could identify errors or omissions or whoppers that I said, he should say what they are, but he knows that he can't.
And all I can do is talk about my personal experience as a professor again. I just shared with you a student complaint, anonymous, and it's always the same thing. They don't point to anything. I mean, they really don't. They don't tell you what you're doing wrong. You're just not saying things, or you're allowing things to be said that upsets them. And by doing that, you're not an ally. Got news for you. I'm not your ally, punk. I'm your professor.
Well, we might as well end on a women's studies professor because they are always a joy to handle. On the second day of class this fall semester, a women's studies professor said something about, you shouldn't vote for Trump. So now she's going to be investigated. At least we have that much going. Janet Gulla is an adjunct professor at Suffolk County Community College. And just listen to what she says.
Well, he's had 4 friggin' years of a chance, and he's done a crap job, and he's really ruining our country. Many of you, this may be the first time that you're voting. I'm sorry, it's such a contentious situation that you're being thrusted into. If any of you do still think Trump, is a good person, I beg you to not only go into your heart center and think about this a little more, pull up all the stuff that he's been doing to our country, taking away so many of our rights. He's trying to turn this into more of a, dictatorship type of situation.
I mean, these are college professors. And for those of you who actually thought that community college were a little bit better, I guess.
Oh, they used to be. Maybe not New York.
But I just can't get past this. What right is he taking from you?
Rights. She said plural.
I just
exactly.
said one. Give me one. Give me one right that's been sacrificed under Donald Trump.
Stop it. Look into your heart center.
Yes, and think more.
Think about this a little more. Pull up all the stuff that he's been doing.
I was personally bothered by the word thrusted.
You're being thrusted. I'm sorry you are being thrusted.
You're being thrusted into this.
It was how New York, though, to start. He's had 4 freaking years of a chance. He's done a crap job.
Give me a break.
New Yorker.
Anyway. What are you talking about?
By the way, this professor, Janet Gulla, teaches sexism and the humanities and women's health in the 21st century. And her specialties are women in medicine, women's health issues, alternative and complementary medicine, so hypnosis and reflexology and energy healing. Maybe that too. But the reason this actually got out was there was a father. You saw the female student was recording basically the Zoom lesson, I guess, and her father, Anthony Salvatore Sr., posted it on Facebook, and he says, "This is not what we are paying to send our kids to school for. You have no business telling these kids who to vote for, and we will be calling the school tomorrow. You should be terminated on the spot." So that got posted. And then school found out about it, and Drew Biondo, the school's director of communications, because every school, big or small, needs a director of communications. The officials are aware of a video. That's what they said. Officials are aware of a video posted to Facebook, allegedly, containing 45 seconds of audio from a hour and 15-minute online class. Pending an investigation of the content and context of that video, we have reassigned the faculty member involved in the video. Suffolk County Community College encourages any open and diverse discussion and exchange of ideas. The college does not, however, condone electioneering by faculty in the classroom.
And I hate to be a prig, but this is my This is my prig segment. That's why I guarantee, and I'm always puzzled by it, these kids who complain, they have been guaranteed absolute free speech. I have had kids say really nasty things to and about me in class, and I'm fine with it. It's as opposed to hiding behind some fake Gmail account. They could say it to my face. All the kids who complain about my classes can do it to my face, and they know I'm man enough not to punish them. And I'm using that word specifically.
But here's the deal. I mean, with the mask situation and the shield, it's not like to your face, because now it's more like they can do it to my shield.
They can do it to my shield.
And then, so you're like Iron Man now with your...
It's funny you mentioned that.
But not really Iron Man. You don't look like Iron Man.
First day of class this semester. Seriously.
Look like Iron Man.
I walked in, I had my little paper mask on, and I changed it off to put on my
You can't
shield.
do that in front of them. That's dangerous.
Well,
Corona.
I did it.
Oh, okay.
Walked in the first day of class and tried to tell it. Worse, nobody laughed.
Of course not. Why
I put on my shield and said, "I am Iron Man," right? No one laughed. That's
shocker.
If you're going to complain about me, those
comment right now. Did anyone laugh?
That's the kind of stuff you should complain about. Mm-hmm. He's a complete dork. You can question my sexuality and my manhood, right? Debatably heterosexual.
Talk about Marvel
you can
comments,
knock yourself out. You're not going to hurt me with that stuff. But the real things that you should be complaining about is the jokes that fall flat.
Time for some real education. Judith Slain Holofernes is a painting by Artemisia Gentileschi, now in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, created around the year 1620. The account of the beheading of Holofernes by Judith is given in the Deuterocanonical Book of Judith and is the subject of many paintings and sculptures from the Renaissance and Baroque periods. The image of Judith in Gentileschi's painting is thought to be a self-portrait. When Artemisia was only 17, she was raped by her painting instructor, a man by the name of Tassi.
Okay, and take a look at this picture. It's a beautiful picture. And she's one of the most famous female painters of all time, really, certainly from the Renaissance period when not a lot of women were actually painters. And she has a really great touch. Take a look at the picture there. You see the tyrant Holofernes on the bed on which he raped Judith, and Judith, of course, is in the yellow gown. She has got the sword, and with the help of her nurse, she is pulling the beard of Holofernes, and they're dragging the sword across the neck. It's a scene of great violence and movement. You can see that bed where he raped her, after he's fallen asleep, the young Jewish girl is going to get her revenge on behalf of the Jewish people. Holofernes was an opposing general who was going to conquer the Jews, took Judith. Judith seduced him. It was a rape, but somebody had to put an end to this threat, and so Judith made herself available. He took advantage of her. Now, go back to the picture for a second and see the violence there. You have the sword being navigated as the nurse in back holds him down. He struggles his last struggle. She's in the process of about to take his head. And if you look at her, it's kind of odd. Her arms are extremely far extenuated from the man himself. It's almost as if she's so grossed out by him that even in the act of murdering him, she can't get closer to him than that. It's a very infelicitous distance, her hands and arms from her body to get power. Maybe that's why she's holding onto the beard. It's a hard thing to cut somebody's head off that way. But in this picture is mingled both her absolute contempt for this man as a Gentile conqueror of a people, as a rapist, and so she's killing him. She's doing it definitively, but doing it with major distance. And if you step back for a second and take a look at the next picture I prepared for you. This is Caravaggio's version of the same thing from 1598-99, about 20 years earlier. And there you have the same thing. There is the Judith in the white blouse and the golden skirt, also taking the head of her tormentor. The blood has begun to spurt. But notice, too, she's pulled the head back by the hair, and that arm is extended a great distance. One wonders if she has the upper body strength, by holding the head that position, to actually take that sharp blade through bone. We do not know. There is her nurse standing by with a burlap sack into which the head would soon be deposited. If you go back to Artemisia's picture, think about this as a young girl who herself was raped by her apprentice teacher. Here you have Artemisia's revenge, not just Judith's revenge, but Artemisia's. Artemisia's own father sued Tassi, the painter, for having taken the young girl's virginity. That's about the best justice they could get for her at her time. But Artemisia goes right back to the picture of Holofernes and Judith to make her own personal statement.
All right, just as a reminder, since Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are not being fans of our content and have demonetized us, it might be the singing. The Billy Joel singing, really. We've decided to go around them, and we're going to have our own Patriot Club. With a one-time $99 tax-deductible donation, we will send you this handsome stainless steel tumbler that actually says, "Freedom never tasted so good," as just a little thank you for joining the Patriot Club. So please visit patriotclub.us to get yours today. That's patriotclub.us.
And before we get to the fun fact, I just want to remind you that we're going to call this Patriot Club the Pat Riot Club. In honor of that student of mine, she's a sophomore, who read the word Patriot, Pat Riot. Please consider joining the Pat Riot Club, and we'll do our best to get these kids to be able to read.
Well, that's a fun fact of its own, but we have another fun fact for the day. If you bang your head against a wall for 1 hour, you will burn 150 calories. So if you're a conservative college student, you could burn a lot of calories over the course of a week. Or you could just skip the class altogether and hit the gym like I do.
And that wraps up this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay Pat Rioted, my friends.